Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Barry here with the Scryguys, and today we're going to be here with another budget deck tech, and I think this is going to be a really fun one for me. I just built it. I was able to try it out a couple times, and it's been fun so far. It's a pretty casual commander, but that doesn't take away from how powerful and effective it is, right? And today we're going to be talking about a Doctor Who commander, Sergeant John Benton. 1 in Selesnya, legendary creature, human soldier, trample haste, has a static ability, share intelligence. Whenever Sergeant John Benton deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each draw that many cards. Now, a lot of people don't like giving opponents too many cards if they can help it, but this one, it seems kind of fun because of one, it's a 3-drop 2/4 with trample and haste. So the way that we're going to be playing this is very spell slinger-ish, and and some people, sometimes it kind of gets you it gives you a lot of leeway at the beginning of the game, right? Especially with the more small amount of creatures that there are on the battlefield. Sometimes they don't even have a choice to just but take the damage, right? But this is a pretty fun Selesnya Voltron type of ish deck. And let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the cards that are going to be in here. We got our foot soldiers, military buns. And this is going to be our creatures for the deck. We don't have too many creatures in this. I believe in this budget build we have around 8 or 9 creatures. And so we got Avacyn's Pilgrim, Finhorn Elves, and Llanowar Elves to try to get our commander out on turn 2 as early as possible, because you want him, because he is still only a 2/4, so you want to get the card draw kind of rolling and then get some some good favor with the rest of the table. So so that's going to be able to get you John Benton out a little bit earlier. We also have Tanuki Transplanter, which is going to be a 3 and a green artifact creature equipment dog. Whenever Tanuki Transplanter or equipped creature attacks, add an amount of green mana equal to its power. Until end of turn, you don't lose mana as the phases end. And it has Reconfigure 3, which it means it just acts as also an equipment. So you can put this on John Benton. With the spells that we have in here, we could possibly add 10, 15 mana possibly. So it's pretty sweet. It's a pretty sweet card, and it's also because it's sweet that the mana doesn't go away as a phase end. And then we have a Zuza Lost But Seeking. This is around a $50 deck, and Zuza is not what it used to be. 2 and a green legendary creature, human monk. You may play 2 additional lands on each of your turns. We're going to be drawing so many cards in this deck that hopefully we're going to be able to draw more and more lands. We do have other effects like this at a budget range that's going to help us drop 2 to 3 lands per turn, but Azusa is going to be our most consistent. So we already have 5 creatures on the board. And we have, Bastion Protector, 2 and a white creature, human soldier. Commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. So just another way for us to protect Sergeant, the Sarge, as we're going to swing in. Hopefully we're swinging in to people that have like lower powered creatures, so we can get the trample damage through. It's nice that it also gives our commander a +2/+2 buff. The new Kutzil Malamet Exemplar, 1 in Selesnya, legendary creature, cat warrior. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control with power greater than its base power deals combat damage to a player, draw cards. So not only is this going to be a budget version of Grand Abolisher with our opponents not being able to interact with us during our turn, it's also going to give us an extra card draw, right? Because we have so many pump spells in this deck that Sergeant John Benton's power should should still be substantially greater than its base. So this is gonna go draw us, maybe we hit it with a giant growth. It's gonna draw us 4 cards instead of, it was 5, 6. It's gonna draw us 6 cards instead of 5. So things like this, just super important for us to be able to get to use our spells on our turn without being interrupted. And this is like about $1, a nice little budget version of Grand Abolisher. Obviously, I do have, if you go to my Architect profile, I do have a more upgraded version of this deck as well. Go ahead and check that out if you're more into playing more higher powered, but more faster mana and all that stuff. But this one, I love this card as it is, because it also gives us another card draw. And then we have Guardian Augmenter, 2 in a green, a flash, which is really important. Commander creatures you control get +2/+2, and commanders you control have hexproof. So just another way for us to protect the Sarge. This is our other segment. Clear the way. This is gonna be board wipe central. We have single combat, which is a 3 and 2 white sorcery. Each player chooses a creature or planeswalker they control, then sacrifices the rest. Players can cast creatures or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn. So this is going to be a really great way for us to bring the fight 1v1, making sure that we're as far as the games have allowed me to have, I've always had 1 or 2 pump souls in my hand, so this is going to allow us to really get damage through easily. Sometimes it's really easy for us to get swarmed by token decks or just any type of go wide strategy, whether it be like Elf Ball or zombies. This whole segment is going to be a great way for us to really clear the way and making sure to keep our hands full. We have Promise of Loyalty, 4 and a white. Each player puts a vow counter on a creature they control and sacrifices the rest. Each of those creatures can attack you or planeswalkers you control for as long as it has a vow counter on it. I like this because it gets around indestructible. Sometimes there's a lot of gods that are running around now that have indestructible. There's a decent amount of creatures that have indestructible. It's sometimes you can't get around that, but Vow of Loyalty gets around that the same way that Always Dust does, because it makes the player sacrifice. And another sweet thing about that is that they can't attack you, so the Vow counter sort of acts like a goad counter. It's pretty cool, right? And I think the last one I want to have this in here is Tragic Arrogance. 3 and 2 white sorcery. For each player, you choose from among the permanents that player controls an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker. Then each player sacrifices all other non-land permanents they control. Another way for us to really clear the board of now not just creatures but everything else. We are running a very small package of artifacts in here and a very small package of creatures in here, and about a couple of only really important enchantment pieces, one being you'll see it in the next segment, probably going to be the most important one. So we're really trying to keep this whole board slim. One of each is going to be totally fine. And again, this also gets around the whole indestructible, like those little Drazias that are usually indestructible, or the gods. Our other segment is buff enchantments. We have Duelist Heritage, which is going to be 2 and a white. Whenever one or more creatures attack, you may have target attacking creature gain double strike until end of turn. This is actually going to be pretty sweet because not only will it give our Sergeant double strike after we pump it a couple times, but we could possibly negotiate with another player on the table to be like, oh, you're gonna attack? All right, well, I'm gonna give it double strike, and so you can kill the player that you're attacking right now. Which sometimes leaves a little bit of salt on the table, but next we have Flaming Fist. It is a 2 and a white legendary enchantment background. When commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature attacks, it gains double strike until the end of turn. Super sweet, pretty cut and dry. But our most important one is Wild Defiance, 2 and a green enchantment. Whenever a creature you control becomes a target of an instant or sorcery spell, that creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. So now our giant growths are a 1 mana 6 +6/+6. Blossoming Defense now becomes a 1 mana +5/+5 and hexproof. there's just a lot of tech for this in this specific type of deck. It's gonna draw us again a bunch of cards, which is gonna be the main focal point of this deck. And with this, you could possibly knock out a player in one turn just after a couple of spells. And then the beautiful part of that is that after you've already exhausted all your spells, you're gonna draw a bunch of cards, and then that player dies, so he doesn't have his cards anymore, and then you go to your next player. Then you go to the next player. Hopefully, again, we have other ways to win in this deck. Voltron is one of the main focal points that I wanted to win in this way. But we do have other ways, and for those other ways, we have to draw into those. So now we have Sir, protect your neck. This is going to be all of our protection spells. We have a bunch of 1 and 2 drops. The curve on this deck is very low, so this deck is very fast for a budget deck. You'll definitely have fun with it. So we have Blossoming Defense, which gives +2/+2 and Hexproof. Snake Skin Veil, which also gives +1 and Hexproof. Surge of Salvation, which gives you and permanents you control Hexproof and then prevent all damage from red and black sources. We have Tameo Safekeeping, Tyvar Stand, and Flare of Faith. Flare of Faith is pretty sweet because it also acts as a buff spell with the +3/+3 because Sergeant is human and it gains indestructible. Same with Tyvar Stand and Tameo Safekeeping. Tyvar with the buff, Tameo Safekeeping without the buff. That one's more for protection and you gain a little life. We have Sedgery Shelter, Take Up the Shield. Sedgery Shelter is nice because it also acts as a double for a land. So our land count, I believe in this budget build, is going to be around 33 or 34. One of those. I should have checked before I started the video. But it's nice that it acts as a just in case we need another land, but it gives our commander protection from a color of our choice. And then Take Up the Shield is not only it gives a permanent buff to our commander, which is in +1/+1 counters, but it also gives us lifelink and indestructible because we are a Voltron deck, we could be taking a lot of damage. So getting lifelink here or there is going to be pretty important. Next we have Take Your Supplements. Sorry, I was having a lot of fun with these titles. We have Embiggen from the Infinity set. Now, I know a lot of people are not a fan of using unstable cards in Commander, but this one isn't super bad. It's a 1 green instant. Until end of turn, target non-brushwag creature gets +1/+1 for each super type, card type, and subtype that it has. With Sergeant John Benton, he is a legendary creature, human soldier. So 1 mana, 4/4 buff, pretty sweet, clear and cut. So you pump him up for 4. Now he's attacking somebody for 6. You both draw 6. It's just fun for everybody. Obviously in the more expensive build, I do have Smothering Tithe in there, so at least we get a little bit of payback for all the cards that we're giving that person. Someone's gonna be like, well, I mean, you already hit him for 15. Do you really need to give him payback? Yeah, because you might win after that. We have Primal Bellow, which is 1 green instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each forest you control. I believe in this deck we have about 12 to 13 forests in there. So 1 mana +13/+13 could definitely knock somebody out of the game super bad. Might of the Nephilim is a 1 in a green instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 for each of its colors. So Sergeant is Selesnya, so it's going to get +4/+4 for 2 mana. Pretty sweet right there. Next we have Intercom and Outer Strain, +2 and a green instant arcane. Target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. There's a couple ways for us to have unlimited hand size, so certain points we could have 15, 16, 18 cards in our hand and possibly kill somebody outright if they've already taken a couple hits from the Sarge. And then we're gonna drop even more cards. It's silly, guys. But it's also just a nice way. It's a nice little combat. All of these are going to be combat tricks, obviously. In the budget, if you'll see it in the deck list, we have about 31, I believe, instance in there, and so everyone is going to just be like, it's not really 2 you're hitting me for, so I'm gonna take the damage, no blocks. How much are you really hitting me for? Next we have Kaya's Onslaught, which is a 2 and a white instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains double strike until end of turn. It's really nice because it also has foretell, so maybe in your opening hand you go land, soul ring, tap 2, foretell this. After a couple games with your play group, they're gonna know it's a Kaya's Onslaught, so it's no longer gonna be a surprise. But still, the mana reduction for 1 white is still gonna be really sweet. You possibly, maybe you intercom Outer Strength your commander, and then you're like, all right, well, before damage, here I'll cast this Kaya's Onslaught, and I'll hit you for not 10, 12, or 11, 12. I'll hit you for 24, and I'll draw 24 cards. It's silly. And then we have Invigorate, 2 in a green instant. If you control a forest, rather than pay the spell's mana cost, you may have an opponent gain 3 life. All right, here, have 3 life. I'm gonna swing at you for 6. I'm gonna take 3 back, and you'll get to draw 6 cards. Look at that! Everybody wins. It's a free spell. No one. Sometimes you'll be able to get maybe John Benton out turn 2. But you have no more mana open, so you swing out. Someone's gonna be like, oh, whatever, and you're like, all right, cool, Invigorate. I'll hit you for 6 instead. See, it's nice, It's not. I mean, it's no force of will. It's no. But no, I was kidding. In this one, it might as well be force of will, or any of the free commander spells. Next, we got Might of Oaks, which is 3 in a green instant. Target creature gets +7/+7. We have Ruinous Intrusion, which is gonna pull double duty for us because it's gonna exile a artifact or an enchantment. Which, the One Ring is running rampant. Obviously, Smothering Tides, get rid of those. Ristic Studies, I hate that. But it's also pretty sweet because it gives our commander +1/+1 counters equal to the mana value of the exile permanent. So now that is just, if maybe there's a Zendikar Resurgent out, you're like, all right, cool, I'm going to exile that, put 7 counters on my commander, swing at you for 9, psych, 21. I don't know. But yeah, it also takes up the slot of having to have like a beast within the deck. It's nice that it's exile and not destroy, and for 1 more mana, given our commander +1/+1 counters on top of that, it's really sweet tech right there. And Stonewood Invocation is a 3 in the green instant, split second, so meaning that they can't interact with it once it's on the stack. Target creature gets +5/+5 until end of turn and can't be the target of spells or abilities this turn. So you want to put this at the tail end of all of your buff spells. Maybe you're having a buff counter war with somebody, but essentially you're gonna be able to win this war because of a split second. And I really wish they would bring that archetype back. Just give me 1 counter spell that's split second. Sometimes you need it. That counter spell would be insanely expensive, depending on the mana value of how much it costs, or like how much it costs to cast, or maybe it's free. I don't know. Discard your hand, counter spell, split second. I don't know. People would play it. CDH would play it. What's and then this is going to be 2 of our possible win conditions in this deck, because again, Voltron is a pretty hard strategy to win with. I mean, it's not impossible. It's been done. I've been at tables where I got tree bearded for infinity life. I don't know. But this is also another way. You always want to build decks with alternate win conditions. Obviously, I always build mine with at least 4 to 5 lines. And something, and you're just like, all right, which one am I going to hit first? For more Voltron, it's a little bit harder for me to narrow it down because Voltron is not really my expertise of deck building. But with this commander, it's pretty clear cut what you want to do, what you're going to be doing, which is going to be drawing a lot of cards. And so because of that, I put in Psychosis Crawler, 5 mana artifact creature, Phyrexian Horror. Psychosis Crawler power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses life. The losing life is important little keyword of text right there, because it gets around damage nullifying effects like solitary confinement. I can't think of anything else after that. But that is the important part. So maybe you hit somebody for 20. Now everyone's taking 20 damage or losing 20 life. So another way for you to win, if your commander can't get there with the commander damage alone. And our last card is going to be I'm pretty sure it's everyone's favorite, Approach of the Second Sun, 6 and a white. If Approach of the Second Sun was cast from your hand, if you cast another spell named Approach of the Second Sun, you win the game. Otherwise, you put it 7th from the top and you gain 7 life. So maybe, alright, so you have the Tanuki reconfigure creature on our commander. You buff them up to 10 and all that stuff. On main phase 1, you cast Approach of the Second Sun, you swing out at somebody, draw 10 cards, and then now you have all this floating mana and a white mana, and then you cast it again, you win the game. It's pretty boring, but it's a nice little fallback just in case you can't get there with the last player, possibly. But yeah, this deck. But so as you can see from my Arc deck right here, the estimated deck cost is around $54, give or take. But yeah, we have other things in here as well. I just wanted to highlight the main focal points of this deck. We have Thought Vessel to go ahead and keep our hand clear, or our hand with a no limit. Cataclysmic Gearhulk is another way to board wipe. Another Utopia Sprawl and Solitary Confinement, because at some point we're going to be possibly taking a lot of damage, and this one we don't really need to draw cards because our commander is going to draw us a bunch of cards. But yeah, the deck is really simple to build. It is super cheap. As you can see, the land base isn't really expensive at $12. Sorcery is around 10. We have Summer Bloom, which I forgot to mention, is one of our ways to play more additional lands, and we obviously have Explore. Look at the mana curve for this deck. It's 2.64. The color distribution on pips is pretty decent, not too egregious on one side, but this deck is a lot of fun to play, and it's a really cheap deck. You know, I play this with other people, and you know, it got there fairly fast, even for just being $54 playing with other people that have more expensive decks. Obviously, the more competitive decks you're going to be playing, the more this less gets good, because you don't want to put more cards in those people's hands unless you have ways to utilize that. And so I do have a more expensive budget version of this that has a little bit more interaction, but still it's a fun deck. I don't see it winning a lot against competitive, but you know, you're playing Magic to have fun, right guys? Playing Magic because you love these characters, especially for Doctor Who. I know there's a huge fan base for that. I actually never really got into it. I tried to, I couldn't. My attention span wasn't there. But yeah, let me know. Enough rant for this deck. Let me know what you guys think about the deck. If you guys end up proxying it out and trying it out, let me know how you guys like it. Maybe there's something I could always change. I'm always super open to ideas. But again, I want to thank you guys for joining us, for subscribing. It's much appreciated. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe. You know, the Holy Trinity, apparently, to Emma from the Quarry. And yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Have a good one.